news and events COVID-19 on June 26. Note, this is a collaborative video made between Travel for All FanPage and Knowledge of Coronavirus channel. Please respectfully welcome everyone. The following is the remarkable news most on June 26 as follows. 1. U.S. News. The United States is currently the country most heavily affected by the COVID-19 epidemic. Up to now, the country has recorded 2,499,023 cases, an increase of 36,469 cases in the past 24 hours, including 124,858 deaths. Many U.S. states such as Washington, California or North Carolina have made mandatory wear masks in public places. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced the suspension of the state's reopening period in response to the increase in infections and hospitalizations due to COVID-19. The state of Texas, which has made moves to end a blockade, has added thousands of new 19 cases of COVID infection, prompting Greg Abbott, Republican governor, to call for a temporary halt to reopening. The U.S. Senate has just passed a pair of bills on June 25 on personal and corporate sanctions that help the Chinese government limit Hong Kong's autonomy. The bill also includes sanctions against banks doing business with any individual or business found to have supported the Chinese government to suppress Hong Kong's autonomy, potentially severing their relationship with U.S. banks and restricting transactions in U.S. dollars. 2. Update global COVID-19 on 6/26/2020. COVID-19 complicated developments in many parts of the world, especially in the Americas and some hotspots on other continents, raising doubts about the possibility that the world will soon return to normal. According to Worldometers, as of 6 a.m. on June 26, the world recorded 9,690,030 cases of COVID-19, an increase of 169,212 cases in the past 24 hours, including 488,962 deaths, an increase of 5,003 cases and 5,250 cases people recovering from discharge. On June 25, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus announced that the COVID-19 pandemic was worsening globally with an estimated 10 million cases of the disease, when the number of deaths hits 500,000 next week. The United States is currently the country most heavily affected by the COVID-19 epidemic. Up to now, the country has recorded 2,499,023 cases, including 124,858 deaths. Europe has been seeing an increase in COVID-19 cases since countries in the region began to relax the restrictive measures imposed. 30 countries also recorded the cumulative number of new infections in the last 2 weeks. The rapid spread of disease in 11 of these countries has resulted in recurrences of cases and, if not prevented, Europe's health system is at risk of overcrowding again. Currently, Europe continues to record an average of nearly 20,000 new cases and more than 700 new deaths from the COVID-19 epidemic every day.
3. India News. India continued to reach a new record with a number of cases on the first day exceeding 18,000. Specifically, in the last 24 hours, India recorded an additional 18,185 people infected with 401 deaths, bringing the total number of cases to 491,170, including 15,301 deaths.
4. Egypt News. On June 25, the Egyptian Ministry of Health announced an additional 1,569 cases of COVID-19 infections, bringing the total number of cases to 61,130. The number of cases in Egypt is on the rise recently, with an average of over 1,000 new cases being recorded every day. Although the number of COVID-19 cases has not decreased, Egypt is still working on a step-by-step plan to ease restrictions, including reducing curfew time at night. In addition, from June 27, Egypt will allow reopening of restaurants, cafes and sports clubs with a maximum operating capacity of 25% during the first phase of resumption of socio-economic activities. 5. Italy News. In Italy, local media reported that the country had just discovered a new outbreak of COVID-19 at a warehouse of the courier company Bartolini in the central city of Bologna. A total of 46 people were infected with the disease. Bartolini's board of directors has ordered temporary closure of this warehouse to carry out quarantine measures, especially for all those who have had contact with the above employees. 6. UK News. In the UK, the COVID-19 traceability and testing system, which has been seen as the key to efforts to lift social restrictions to prevent epidemics, is proving ineffective as Prime Minister Boris Johnson begins to allow the businesses reopening. According to a report by the Ministry of Health, in the third week of operation of the system too lose track to 1,791 of 6,923 people were put in contact tracking system equivalent to 25.9%, while 263 others do not have detailed personal information to be able to contact. 7. Vietnam News. According to the June 6 newsletter, June 26 of the National Steering Committee for Prevention and Combat of COVID-19, up to now, there have been 71 cases of Vietnam without transmission in the community. The insurance company will accept British pilot patients, handing over to British Health when eligible to return home by air. 8. Japanese News. On June 26, Japan recorded more than 100 cases of SARS-CoV-2 virus causing COVID-19, the first time since May 9, becoming the day with the highest number of cases since the country expanded. Loose blockades, which closed many pubs, cinemas and other public venues. Last week Japan ended its ban on domestic travel, the last restriction on a series of measures taken when it declared a state of emergency in April. According to NHK, there are 54 cases in Tokyo alone. New infections were recorded on June 26. 9. Chinese News. On June 26, Chinese officials announced that Beijing had lifted part of a blockade that lasted weeks to prevent the spread of the second wave of the COVID-19 epidemic after 3 million acres. The test is tested within 2 weeks. Earlier, dozens of residential areas across Beijing were closed, with authorities deploying a large-scale testing campaign to detect the remaining virus infections. Most of the new COVID-19 cases in Beijing involve the wholesale market in the south of the capital, which supplies about 80% of Beijing's fresh and meat products. The blockade eased on June 24 for 7 apartment buildings after residents tested negative for viruses, while the rest of the capital remained frozen. 10. Turkey News. Turkey has recently increased its presence from the Middle East to the Eastern Mediterranean and North Africa through diplomatic and military moves. This increases the risk of confrontation and friction in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, leading to complexity and compromises between the parties involved. Specifically, there has been much controversy recently between Turkey and France. Paris opposes Ankara's military activities in Syria and actively supports the Greek government of Cyprus. More serious is the fact that the Turkish destroyer chased after French warships involved in a NATO mission and tried to prevent a cargo ship supposedly carrying weapons to Libya. NATO decided to open an official investigation into the naval confrontation between France and Turkey in the Mediterranean. However, Turkey has denied all these allegations. It is still not known whether the results of NATO's investigations of this incident or the stress level will be reduced. Turkey is seeking to protect new interests and regions, which has created a new friction, resulting in a complex compromise between the parties concerned. To resolve these differences and eliminate tensions, NATO members should reconcile mutual interests through dialogue between allies and formulating realistic policies on this basis. Our newsletter is now over. Thank you for always watching and supporting our videos. Knowledge of coronavirus, channel and travel for all fantas respectfully, and see you in the next video.
you.